We are going to do a small mini painting. And in this painting, we want to focus on the light. So when we look at the reference photo, we can see this really bright light coming in the background. The trees are kind of covering the sunlight, making a shadow on the water. But then we can see this really beautiful reflection and light coming from the background. All of our colors are pretty much the same with the exception of our brown. We're using burnt sienna instead of burnt umber. That's really just to give a variation in our brown, but you don't have to use burnt sienna. You can also use burnt umber. Alright, we've already activated our paint and we're starting with a very watery wash. So I'm going to start with yellow. And we really just want to put it everywhere. This is the light coming back. This is permanent yellow deep. Alright, now let's grab green. Also just going to paint it everywhere. It's okay if we're painting over some of the branches. Seems like we got a bit too much there. Okay, you can also start blending them together a little bit. Next, we're going to grab burnt sienna, paint it on the ground, also in the trees. This is one tree here. Another tree. There we go. I want to get the ground. This ground here. And we have some rocks here, so let's just put them in. Gonna take a damp brush and just kind of swipe out this extra water while it's still wet. Okay, now we're going to go in with Viridian Hue. So we need to make sure that we leave some of the parts blank because we want to use the white of the paper. For example, here, I'm just going to paint over everything. You can see it's bleeding. I'm going to take a damp brush, just quickly swipe that out. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a damp brush and swipe it this way. The reason I'm doing that is because we want this side to be wider. So kind of get rid of that edge, and also it preserves the white on this side. It's bleeding and that's normal. It's going to bleed a little bit, but it's okay, it's part of the charm. I'm taking a damp brush, just swiping some extra out. One more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab our dark green, and while it's still wet, hold it up and let it bleed down. Why am I doing this? Because we can see some streaks of reflected trees. So that just gives it a nice natural effect. Okay, of course it's going to bleed, that's totally normal. Use a damp brush, just swipe it out. This is just the first layer, so you do not need to worry too much about everything bleeding. Damp brush, swipe over this. Alright, that's the first layer done. Just going to let it dry. This first layer is really just to take out all the white space. See these little bit white spots here, so let's just use a damp brush. So we've used the hairdryer to dry everything off. It is completely dry to the touch. We're going to go in with another layer that's also very transparent, but we want to be a bit more careful. So we're moving on to the detail brush. I'm going to start with yellow. So taking our permanent yellow deep, we're just going to start scrubbing around to indicate that there are leaves there. It's still very transparent and light, as you can see. You can still see the layer that we have put down underneath it. We're just starting to add a little bit of detail. Especially here. This is where the background is with a lot of light shining through. Okay, let's move on to green. I'm going to do the same thing. You go over the branches. It's totally fine. Okay, now let's take our burnt sienna. We're just going to do one flat wash over trees. Just to make it clear what is what. This is some sort of root on the ground. These are two branches here, and these are also tree stumps. Okay, now we're going to do some mixing. So I'm going to take ivory black and burnt sienna, just so that it's a little bit darker. And we're going to put it on the ground. So we just want to differentiate the trees and the ground a little bit. Make a little bit more here. And then on this side. It's okay if we leave some spots out because now we're trying to add a little bit of texture. Okay, and then let's move on to Viridian Hue, to the river. We want to leave this part out white. And just want to get that river color down. We're going to mix it up. I'm going to add a little bit of green. Back to Viridian Hue, paint a little bit over here, and also in the background. Okay, then with a damp brush, just gonna kind of make sure there are no harsh edges. Alright, it's looking really nice. Let's just add a few more green swipes. And we also need to get these rocks that are in the river. Swipe this out a little bit. The same as here, because it's starting to bleed. Now the thing about this style of painting is that sometimes a little bit of bleed is nice. It's a very loose painting. We don't want to be too precious. If things bleed a little bit, it's okay, as long as it doesn't hinder the overall look of the painting. Alright, so that is our second layer. We're just adding a tiny bit of detail, making everything a little bit darker. We're going to let this dry off, and now we can erase our pencil lines. We want to pretty much take away as much as we can, because now the paint has given us enough detail that we don't need the pencil lines anymore.